Commodore fans, are you ready? It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast on the 440 Sports Network. Keep it locked right here for the best Vanderbilt coverage. Whether it's Clark Lee on the gridiron, Mark Byington and Shea Ralph on the hardwood, or Tim Corbin on the diamond, the Vandy247 crew has you covered. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Also, like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's free and easy to do. Follow the crew on Twitter, Apple Podcast, and Spotify for podcast episodes. Lastly, if you're interested in sponsoring the show, email Chris Lee at chrislee70@gmail.com. And now, pull up a chair. It's time for another episode of the Vandy247 podcast.
Welcome into Vandy247 Live alongside Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick as we are one day away from Vandy and St. Mary's. Joey reporting live from Cleveland. Vandy will practice today, so Joey will get a good look at the team and I would assume talk to Byington and a couple players as well. The press conference will be today, and that'll actually be live on YouTube. We'll try to get the link out there on the board as well. Well, Joey will have the footage from that as well. But we're talking Vandy St. Mary's today. We've also got a baseball series this weekend starting tonight at Hawkins Field. Vandy and Texas A&M tonight, Friday, and then Saturday for the VandyBoys. So we'll touch on that a little bit, and then we'll take your comments and questions live. Probably won't go too long here. We may try to go live tomorrow before the game as well, and then obviously after the game, we'll go live with the post-game show. But I do want to mention that we are now a part of the Believe Network. They've got over 500 shows. Believe reaches audiences across all major podcast platforms, including YouTube, social media, regional sports, TV networks, streaming video services, and Fast TV. It's the ultimate destination for hosts, fans, and brands alike, providing something for everyone. And we're glad to be a part of the Believe Network. We're also glad to be partnering with the Wash House as they present our basketball coverage. Are you dreading laundry day? Is it stealing time to do the things that you truly enjoy? Well, let the laundry professionals of the Wash House take care of that for you with 2 convenient locations in the greater Nashville area. Just drop off your dirty laundry and their professional attendants can give you back the one thing you can never have enough of, your time. Within 24 hours, you can pick up your nicely folded, fresh and clean laundry ready to be put away. Log on to washhouseclean.com or stop in today and get your time back. Joey, made it to Cleveland?
Hold up 1 second. Housekeeping's here.
Oh, the timing is impeccable. Housekeeping showing up immediately as I go to Joey. That's perfect. But no, anyway, Joey is in Cleveland reporting live, and we've got Vandy and St. Mary's coming up in one day. Tomorrow, 2:15 p.m. Central Time is the approximate tip-off time. We'll see if it actually tips off at 2:15. Joey, it'll be interesting. Did you get housekeeping checked out?
Yeah, we just apparently I have to renew my room. I'm supposed to have it throughout the weekend, but I had to make 2 separate reservations, so we're good to go now.
We're good. We're off and rolling. Joey, I want to start with anything else we haven't mentioned. We've gone live pretty much every day this week, diving deep into this matchup. I don't really think there's anything else to get to in regards to this matchup that we haven't talked about. But I want to kind of give you the floor for any other things you think should be mentioned. I know you just put a piece out actually on the site, basically outlining the 5 things that'll determine the result of this game between Vandy and St. Mary's. It's a really good read. If you haven't read it, go check it out on the site, Vandy247.com. It's just such an interesting matchup, but I do think that those things you laid out are all going to be really important.
Yeah, it's the classic Jekyll and Hyde matchup, right? You look at Vanderbilt, they want to run, they want to get in transition, they want to push the tempo and shoot a lot of threes, get their playmakers in space, whereas St. Mary's wants to slow it down. They want to get into their stuff. They want to put it through Mitchell Saxon, who is a very capable passer. They want to use their size and athleticism to basically make this game a mess in a lot of ways. They remind me a little bit of Texas A&M. And honestly, Billy, I think at some positions they're more talented than Texas A&M. I think A&M is more of a 1 or 2 scoring option team, whereas St. Mary's, I think everybody on the floor is a capable scorer. I think they have maybe even better positional size at the 3 and the 4 than A&M does. So I think it's going to be a test for Vanderbilt in a lot of ways. And I think it's one of the biggest Vanderbilt basketball games in the last couple of years. It might be the biggest, maybe since Bryce Drew took Vanderbilt to the tournament the last time. This is a type of win that really could change kind of how we talk about the year. We're going to talk about it favorably. Obviously, they well surpassed expectations, right? But a tournament win is a lot different than ending the year with 4 straight losses. And I think the way this team gets looked at maybe is talked about a little bit differently if they win a game like this. So really big day tomorrow. Today will be a good day as well. I'll be at practice in a couple hours, and they'll have the locker room opened up. Byington will talk, and a few players will be on the podium, but you might have to get that video because I think I'll be in the locker room during that. So be an interesting day. Hopefully some stuff comes out of today, but just interesting to see Vanderbilt on this stage, because I don't think any of us really imagined that this would be the case right away. Even if we like the roster, it was just so improbable that they would get here. And now that they're actually here, kind of surreal to think about.
It really is. And something I've thought about here the last, 3 or 4 days is it feels like Vanderbilt hasn't played in forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it feels like 3 weeks since Vandy has played. And I was trying to figure out, is that a good thing or a bad thing for this team? Because, it's been since Wednesday, early Wednesday afternoon, that fateful Texas game. And they talked after that game that they wanted it. They wanted it so bad. And they were probably pressing in that game. And this team, I think, Joey, in the postseason, it'll be interesting to see if they can connect their desire and their want to execution, and to shots falling and to playing smart. They got out of character too many times, whether it was against Arkansas, Georgia, there to end the season, and then Texas. Can they get back into character? It's really going to be interesting. And did this layoff help them? They've had days off. They've had time to rest. Coach Byington said Grant Huffman looks great, and he's excited to have him back. We'll see about MJ Collins. It'll be interesting to see, what they look like moving around today. But I mean, they've had, 9 days here, Joey, to 8, 9 days really to rest and heal up. And Vandy will still have some guys with bangs and bruises here or there, but that's kind of a big question for me, Joe. Did the layoff help them? And for the first time in really a few weeks, can this team put it all together, connecting their will, their want to? We know they want it, but can they connect that with execution, playing smart, and playing in character, doing what they do best? Because we've talked about it. They haven't done that really for the latter part of the last month.
Yeah, I really liked the talk on Selection Sunday relative to what the talk had been before out of them. Jason Edwards talked about how they wanted to play smart basketball. He individually wanted to play smart basketball on this trip. And I think that's kind of different than the messaging that Tyler Nickel had before the Texas game, where it was all about desperation. It was all about a must win. It almost felt like Vanderbilt was putting too much pressure on itself at that point. Right now, it feels like they're more in position to play a loose game than they have been. Billy, when they got down against Texas, against Georgia, it felt like there was a high school crush in the crowd that a lot of people on the floor were trying to impress. Like, there was guys taking the thing into their own hands. There was guys trying to be the hero. And that can't be the formula against a team like St. Mary's. St. Mary's would love if Vanderbilt would do that. And I think Vanderbilt knows that. Vanderbilt knows that that's not a formula to be able to win in the NCAA tournament. It's got to do it as a whole. And throughout a lot of the second half, they have done it as a whole. Mark Byington said he thought they hit their identity in January. And since then, you've really seen them play a lot more together. You've seen guys get open looks. Tyler Nichols had a lot more open threes than maybe he had early in non-conference play. They kind of figured out how to play together. And for a lot of the second halves of those games, it felt like all that vanished. So Vanderbilt's got to get that back. It doesn't have to get any sort of talent back or anything. It's just got to get itself back in the way that it's playing together, it's playing smart. And I thought that was good on Jason Edwards to kind of bring that up and mention that that's going to be important, because I think if you are turning it over against St. Mary's. If you're not making the extra pass against St. Mary's, you don't have a chance. And that's what Vanderbilt's going to have to do. It can't be AJ Hoggard bullying his way the entire way. It can't be Jason Edwards pulling up for 35 footers with a guy in his face and praying that they go in. It's got to be a whole effort. And Edwards is certainly going to get his. He's got his dang near every game this year. Hoggard's going to make an impact on the game. It's just, can they make the extra pass? Can they be a little bit more patient? St. Mary's probably going to try to take Edwards and nickel out of the game a little bit, but can Vanderbilt respond to that? And like I mentioned in the story, can somebody besides Edwards do it? I don't remember the exact record, but when Edwards scores 20 plus, they're like 2-8 or 2-9. And that's because he's had to take the game over by himself. And maybe not as much even his fault. So we're going to see if somebody else can step up and take over this game with him. So Billy, going to be an interesting day tomorrow.
Yeah, Edwards is not going to be able to win this game by himself, and as you mentioned, he hasn't really been able to do that. That's a really interesting stat. When he scores over 20 points, Vandy's 2-8. That shows you that Hoggard is needed to score more than just 4 or 5 points, right? That you need a few threes from nickel as well. You need McLaughlin. You need the all the parts working at once for this team to win games. Joe, I do want to hit on some baseball here a little bit later. And again, if you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to fire away. Let's get to our final predictions. We had our staff predictions on the site. They're still on the site, actually. Robbie did a good job of throwing those up there. So check that out. We've got that tweeted out there. I'll start with you, Joey. Why? Because we both have Vanderbilt winning close games. And that's interesting because Chris and Robbie both have Vandy losing close games. So either way, it looks like this will likely be a close game. At least that's what we think. And that's what we believe. But why do you think Vandy wins a close game?
I think the history tells you that they're in a position to win here. They haven't lost 4 in a row all year. They'd be in a position to lose 4 in a row. If they lost it tomorrow, I just think the talent ultimately wins in a lot of NCAA tournament games. You've kind of seen that from St. Mary's recently. Grand Canyon last year was a more talented team than they were and found a way to beat them, although St. Mary's, I thought that was one of their best teams last year. You just feel like the guys like Jason Edwards, who have been longing to play on a stage like this, combined with the guys like AJ Hoggard, who have played on a stage like this, and Tyler Nichols wanted to for a long time and hasn't had the chance to. MJ Collins hasn't had the chance to. Just feel like talent ultimately wins, and it feels like they're more about the right things now than they have been throughout the last week and a half or so. I think it's going to be tough, right? I don't think this is any team that's going to be like big old or big bad SEC team comes in and they let the pressure get to them. I think Brandon and I hit on that a lot on Tuesday or whenever we were last live. St. Mary's is going to be a real test for Vanderbilt, but you feel like this is a team with some old guys who kind of have a chip and they know how to win. I generally think that's a pretty solid position to be in at this point of the year. So I took Vanderbilt by 2 points, I think, and I think you took Vanderbilt in a close one as well. I believe Brandon did too. Brandon wrote like 3,000 words in that article. I wrote like 100. So shout out to Brandon. He put in his work on that one. But good piece by Robbie if you haven't read it. A lot of good reasoning on both sides there.
Yeah, I want to throw out, Robbie mentioned this too. So a lot of the sports books still have Vandy as a 4.5 point underdog. Some have moved to 3.5, but for the most part, it's at St. Mary's minus 4.5. On ESPN Tournament Challenge, 45% of users have picked Vanderbilt in their brackets. And I think of the 10-7 seed matchups, Vanderbilt is the most picked 10 seed to win. And that's ESPN Tournament Challenge, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, those people are really educated on Vanderbilt basketball. Then, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Bart Torvik, who is very educated, has Vanderbilt with a 35% chance to win. And Ken Palm, I think, has St. Mary's by 4 winning. So, you look at the computers, they're looking at a 4 or 5 point St. Mary's win. And I think I'm kind of with you with how Vanderbilt has that chip on their shoulder. I don't see them going out this season with a whimper. Now, I say that that could mean a really competitive, close loss as well. And you could say, hey, we made the tournament, we were picked 16th. But I think this team, they've continued to prove people wrong. And Joey, their backs are against the wall, right? Every team in this tournament, their backs are against the wall. Vanderbilt's done pretty well when their backs are against the wall this year, if you think about it. They were against the wall in that Texas game, right? We were talking about that as a must-win game. They got it. It was at home, but they got it. And then Ole Miss, backs were against the wall once again. They got it. That catapulted to a 3-game winning streak, back-to-back top 15 wins. And I know backs probably weren't against the wall against Texas. Some people might have thought they were. They struggled in that game. Texas ended up winning, but their backs were against the wall. So Vanderbilt's backs are back against the wall, and I'm interested to see how they respond maybe differently as opposed to because Joey, they could be the more desperate, more motivated team here. I say that St. Mary's lost last year. They'll be motivated. They've got older guys. I get that. But, in the NCAA tournament, it's a lot about who has the biggest chip on their shoulder. I think Vanderbilt might have that. I said in my piece, I think McLaughlin and Carey really step up in this game. I think they will outrun and tire out Saxon, Morausius, and even Wessels. If Wessels plays a lot, I doubt Wessels will play a ton. And I think Vandy will shoot better than 3 of 19 from 3. I mean, that's not gonna hold that 3 of 19 from 3 line. If it does, Vandy's got no shot. But Vandy's strength is their depth, Joey. We've talked about it all year. I think their depth shines through here, and I've got a 4-point Vandy win tomorrow over St. Mary's. So there we go. We got our final predictions in. Joe, I know you're not covering a ton of baseball this weekend. Robbie will be there tonight covering, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to shoot to be there tomorrow night and then potentially Saturday as well. But it's a big series for the Vandy boys. And Texas A&M, Joe, you look at them, they were a top 5 team to begin the season, but they're looking at a 10-9 record right now. Of course, they're 0-3 in SEC play. And, I was talking to Chris on the phone the other day. I was like, what's happened to A&M? Because, Chris is pretty locked in on SEC baseball. And he's like, well, there's got to be something interior in that locker room that's going on. And so I think initially you look at this, now we got to play Texas A&M if you're a Vandy fan. This is not the Texas A&M of the beginning of the season, Joey. I mean, they were a preseason top 5 team, number 2 in a lot of rankings. But as I said, they've fallen off a cliff a little bit here. I'm sure they'll be motivated to get this win this weekend. But Vandy needs to be motivated, and they need to get this series this weekend, Joey. They've got Connor Fennell on the mound tonight. Corbin talked about switching up the rotation a little bit, and he has done that. Thompson will go tomorrow night, and then Bowker, of course, on Sunday with the quick Thursday through Saturday turnaround series here. But Joey, they need it. They need it at Hawkins Field this weekend.
For sure. A&M to me feels like Arkansas basketball, where you look early in the year and you're like, wow, that's one of the more talented teams in the league, one of the better lineups in the league. And you're thinking, man, I just don't know how they're not a top 5, top 7 team in the league. And right now they're just not. Like Chris said, completely have underwhelmed throughout the year. It's not like Vandy has had its daisies and roses start to the year either. I think this is a big weekend for them. After dropping 2 of 3 at Auburn, I thought the pitching left a lot to be desired, especially after I write the piece about how their bullpen seems to be better than it was last year. The pitching maybe doesn't go haywire over the weekend, but isn't great. I think Auburn is a better team than people realize, and it's hard to win on the road there. But if anyone wants to prove some things, it's got to do it this weekend. I generally have always thought that this team is better than they were last year, but you drop the first 2 SEC series, especially against a team that's reeling in a way like A&M is, and you start to panic a little bit. I think Fennell will set the tone for the weekend in a lot of ways. That's an interesting move from Corbin to me. McIlvain obviously would have been on short rest. Fennell going to be interesting against a lineup with that kind of power and that kind of talent. Obviously not a super hard thrower, but here's his chance, right? Like this is a guy who came from Dayton last year. He's a young guy. If he wants to be able to crack a spot in the rotation consistently and maybe take some of the slack that they thought McIlvain would take, this is his chance to prove that he can do it. Obviously, you need better from J.D. Thompson than you got last weekend. And I just think that, man, they've got to they've got to win 2 out of 3 this weekend if they want to be on track to host, if they want to be on track to get out of the first regional and put themselves in a good position. It feels a little early to say that, but when the year starts like it kind of has in league play for Vanderbilt, you generally think that there is some, maybe not panic, but some urgency to win a series like this. And that's kind of what I'm feeling right now, Billy. I think they're improved. I've got to see some evidence of it, though, and this weekend is their chance to be able to show us some of that.
Yeah, Fennell's been good. He's 2-0 on the season. He's pitched 5 times. He's got, only 2 hits, 13 strikeouts. Hasn't pitched a ton, but he's been really good in his opportunities. He hasn't given up any runs. That's not too bad at all. Hasn't given up any home runs. And again, this is a good opportunity because, Joe, you look at him, he's not the biggest guy and he doesn't throw the hardest, but I'm sure there aren't too many A&M batters that will enjoy that at bat and have seen a guy like Fennell. So I think this is a big moment. If Fennell pitches really well, at least just as an opener, right? Because this will probably be a bullpen game. But if he pitches really well, gives you the first 4 or 5 strong innings, maybe that's a formula on Saturday instead of McIlvain. And I'm not trying to X out McIlvain, but look, he hasn't been what he's needed to be for the team, and he was on short rest, so he wasn't going to start this game. But that's a good point about Fennell. This could be a real opportunity for him to step into the starting rotation. We've seen teams like last year, Tennessee. They had to use an opener in one of their days, and it worked really well for them. So those opener type guys can work more times than not. So. Again, this weekend, big series for the Vandy boys. 6 o'clock tonight, 6 o'clock tomorrow, and then 2 o'clock on Saturday. We'll be there covering. Be interesting to see what happens. Joey, you're in Cleveland, and Vandy will practice today at 2 o'clock. Give fans an idea of what today looks like, what kind of content they could be in for today, because probably be similar to the SEC tournament. But what does today's timeline look like for Vandy?
I actually misspoke, Billy. 12:30 to 1:10 practice for Vandy today. That's Eastern time,
okay.
So 11:30 Central time. So I'll walk over to the arena right after this. Vanderbilt players talk at 11:50 Eastern. So I'm wondering who that'll be, but I think you'll have to get that off the live stream instead of the YouTube channel. I want to be in the locker room for that. I feel like I can get better content there. And then Byington will talk at 12:05. We'll definitely have that on the channel. So interesting day for Vandy Hoops, trying to get an update on MJ Collins and Grant Huffman. Obviously, they're going to play, but we got to see how close to good they are at this point. And I think those 2 guys are big factors that we talked about a little bit going into today, but I think that was a lot of the reason that they had that 3-game slide is because those guys weren't as healthy as they could be. Collins obviously missed the last 2 out of those 3 losses, and Huffman missed all 3. So interesting couple of days coming for Vanderbilt basketball. Today will be a nice start. There'll be a Sights and Sounds video on YouTube, and you never know how much you can really learn from a day like this. But good to be here, and good to see March Madness on the court for Vanderbilt basketball. It's been a long time since that's been the case. So be a couple good days for Vanderbilt basketball, and hopefully the fan base enjoys it.
Yeah, it's be interesting to see how many Vandy fans are up there in Cleveland. That's something I would say, Joyce. Let me know and let the board know how many Vandy fans you pass by. Maybe not today, but definitely tomorrow on game day with the 2:15 Central Time, 3:15 Eastern for Joey there in Cleveland at Rocket Arena. Stay tuned for all Joey's coverage today. We've got baseball tonight. Well, we'll have the press conferences up. They're actually going live here at 10:50 local time here soon on YouTube. I'll send out the link there if you guys want to check those out. But that's Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick. We wanted to hop on real quick here. Again, we're going to shoot to go live. We'll probably do something quick live, maybe last minute thoughts with Joey tomorrow right outside the arena. Then, of course, we'll go live after the game as well. But that's Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick. I want to mention, go subscribe to Vandy247.com if you haven't yet. It's only $1 for the first month. You get an annual subscription. You get a monthly subscription if you'd like. 30% off your first year for the annual, $1 for the first month. as well if you'd like to. This is the best time of year to be subscribing. All right, thanks for listening. We'll catch you again soon with more episodes of the Vandy 24/7 podcast.